Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's financial literacy session. I'm Immaculate Businje, and I am very thrilled to guide this timely conversation on one of the most important topics that we always don't think about. So our topic tonight is going to be why tax-free beats tax-deferred, the retirement planning strategy we all need to know. We all think about today. Sometimes we forget about tomorrow, but tonight our young man here is going to take us there. So our focus tonight will be on comparing traditional retirement plans like 401ks, individual retirement accounts, and the most powerful one, the index universal life insurance. So we're going to be helped by Mr. Collins Inwari, a passionate investor and a wealth creation advocate. So Collins, we don't want to waste much of your time. Please, you're going to take it on with the first question. What are the key differences between IUL, traditional retirement plans like 401ks, individual retirement accounts, and other sorts of accounts do we have there? If we may take it on, please go ahead and share with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Immaculate Businje. I am very happy to be here. It's an honor and a privilege to be joined with some people on the live on the recording, and even to the ones that will see this later. I hope that you find value in this. As she said, my name is Colin Nwari, and I've mostly been very passionate about investing since I was in university. Really self-taught from the beginning. So I've made a lot of mistakes. I've done a lot of research. I've listened to a lot of professionals, and that has brought me to where I am today with all the products that we're going to be talking about today. I have a 401k ever since I started working that has an employer match, and it's different depending on the employer that I've had, and I've tried both versions of the IRA, which is the individual retirement account. There's the Roth, and then there's the traditional IRA with some differences. And then there's the indexed universal life. That's an insurance policy with an investment component on it. So I have a presentation prepared. So I'll go ahead and share it, and hopefully everybody can see it and follow along. And I'll go into detail with these products that I mentioned, and we'll look at them together. So the title for this one is pretty simple, just we're rethinking retirement. There's three main vehicles for retirement that we often hear, and that's the 401k. It's usually for employees, people with the W-2. Those that are employees know that one. There's the individual retirement account. From now on, I'll call it the IRA, just to be short. And anybody can have this one. As long as if you're in the US, you have to be a US citizen to have it, or at least have a residency here. And then you have the indexed universal life. And this one is you have to go through some underwriting. It's actually a life insurance policy with an addition of an investment component attached to it. So we're going to look at them and compare them side by side, and then I'll give you my take in the end. I try to give credit where it's due, and then just be as still mind each one as much as I can. So this is the usual advice that you normally get from online, or even the common understanding about retirement is that you max out your 401k, put up the rest and put it in an IRA, but even that has a limit, and they never tell you what to do after that, you know. And then just let the market do its thing. So that's advice that is good. but it assumes three main things, right? It assumes that you'll you'll be in a lower tax bracket when you are 60, and you won't need any money until then because you cannot take it out, and that the average market returns where your money is being invested in will protect you from running out of money. Basically, that the market is going to do good from if you invest at starting at 18 all the way to 60, that you'll be good. So let's test those assumptions together. So the main things that I'm focusing this presentation on is three things. We could talk about a lot of different comparisons, but I want to just focus on three main things. One is the tax timing. When you get taxed, if you get taxed, how do these three products compare? The second one is control. Control of what? Control of how your money is invested and where. And then the third thing is when you can take out your money and in what procedures, and what are the penalties, if any, of withdrawing your money at any time. So just briefly, when it comes to timing, tax timing, I should say, the Roth IRA, which is a type of IRA, you remember I told you there's two IRAs. There's the traditional IRA and there's the Roth IRA. The Roth IRA is you get taxed before you invest. So the money that you're investing is already tax-free. So later on, when you get to the age of retirement, you can take out your earnings plus the principal tax-free. And then the traditional IRA and the 401k, you're putting in money before it's taxed. So then you're taxed after when you turn 60. The index universal life is not taxed ever, right? So you put in money that pre-tax, and then after you reach the age of basically when you pass away, because it's a life insurance policy, right? When you pass away and your death benefit is getting paid out, there's no tax on that money. And on top of that, there's loans on your IUL. So you can borrow against your IUL policy and you'll be charged interest, but there will be no tax on that money that you borrow. And it doesn't affect your policy as well. Your policy stays intact. Second pillar is control. So if you're somebody who's working at a job and they have a 401k plan already in your benefit package, they connect you with somebody who they partner with to carry out these 401ks for the employees. Now that contractor has a list of funds that you can invest your 401k into. Those funds are fixed. You cannot change them. You cannot say, oh, I don't want that fund. I want this one. They tell you this is the menu that we have. Take it or leave it, pretty much. So it's a limited menu. Even though it is a menu, it's not like one fund or something. Then you got the IRA, which you have access to the entire market. And you set this one up yourself, actually. So you can create an account tomorrow and choose whether you want it traditional or an IRA. You can use different exchanges. The one that I use is called M1 Finance. There's many others out there, and you can invest in anything. You can invest in stocks. You can invest in mutual funds. You can invest in ETFs. You can invest in real estate funds or stocks. So you have everything. But then you got to be careful because some of these funds are managed by entities that will charge fees for managing the funds for you. So if you pick funds that have high fees, then they can end up eating some of your savings, and it kind of defeats the purpose, right? But if you've done your due diligence and you look carefully, you can find funds and invest on your own. And then the IUL is also similarly to the 401k. It has a fixed funds that, depending on your career insurer will give you, and you can pick depending on your risk tolerance. Do you want to go aggressive? Do you want medium? Do you want to be conservative? Just depending on the person, right? And then you can choose which fund to put your money in, and they'll give you an estimate as to your returns based on the fund that you pick. So you think about the liquidity now. The pillar for liquidity is how you can take out your money once you've put it in there, for whatever the case might be. Maybe you have an emergency, or you want to put down a deposit on a house, or whatever the case might be. People want their money, right? If you have a 401k, it's very strict. You cannot take out that money until you're 59 and a half. If you do, and both IRA, the traditional one, and 401k are like this. If you do take out your money before you're 59 and a half, it's taxed as ordinary income. Basically, they assume if you take out 10,000, that's part of your income. We're taxing it at the end of the year, on top of whatever you were making that year. And not capital gains, which is different. Capital gains is only when you've made a profit on your stocks. And those withdrawals can even make your Social Security taxable, or even push your Medicare premiums, because it adds to your net worth. For the Roth IRA, because you've put in post-tax money, you can take out the what do you call it? The basic money that you put in, you can withdraw at any time. But the gains on the Roth IRA will be taxed if you take them out. So you can only take out the principal at any time. And then you got the IUL, which it can start accruing cash value as early as, depending on how much you're contributing to it, very early. And that money that you accumulate in the cash value, you can take it out at any time. Again, it comes back to how aggressive your portfolio is set up to, and how much premiums you're paying into it. They can give you a premium that is maybe $100 per month. If you choose to do $200 per month, the remainder will stack up your cash value quicker, and you can withdraw that at any time tax-free. And not to mention, maybe I'll talk this about later in detail. Once there's certain riders on the IUL that allow you to withdraw the money, again, tax-free, if you meet the qualifications for these riders, such as chronic illness. Maybe you get diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, you qualify to withdraw some of your money before you die, basically. And then, there's a few different riders like that that allow you to withdraw your money early. Early, I mean, before you pass away, you can start to live off of your money, in addition to the cash value. And let's talk about some of the strength of 401k. So 401k, for those that don't know, it's 99%, if not 100%, always has a matching component from the employer, because they're the ones that offer it. You cannot have a 401k if you're, self-employed, but it's usually for people that have a W-2. So the employee will match up to 100%, sometimes 50% for a certain amount of contributions that you put. And the limit to that contribution is $23,000 in 2025. And it changes, they update these things. That means if you contribute $23,000 in year 2025, your employer is matching you at 100%, then at the end of the year, you have 46 $46,000 saved up. That's like instant return. There's no other product on here that will give you 100% return on every dollar that you invest. Nowhere. It's the only thing in the world. So it would be financially poor not to take this offer. And another thing too is that it allows you to automate your investments, because this money is taken out of your paycheck before it gets to your account or checked out to you by the partner that your employer partnered with. So that way you don't have to think about it. It just gets taken out and invested on your behalf. You set how much you want to put aside. So maybe, if the employer is giving you 6%, 100% matched, 6% of your paycheck is matched 100% by your employer, and you say, okay, I just want to put 3%. Then that 3% of your paycheck is automatically deducted and saved, invested for you. And then the employer will put another $3 out of, let's say you get $100, then 60, $6 will be put aside, and then your employer will put another $6, and then you get $12 invested. So it helps people, be disciplined, stay consistent, and it automates the whole process. And then let's talk about the individual retirement account. What are the strengths? One, as we talked about, you got full investment control. If you want maximum flexibility in your investments, you can buy whatever you want to buy, but you're also taking on all the risk, because the reason why some of these other two, like the 401k and the IUL, have a fixed set of funds that you can put your money in is because they've done the research and they've seen the growth profile of these funds, and they know that it's a safe place to put your money, and they're not risky, like very risky investments where you're almost guaranteed to lose your money. But if you want that maximum flexibility, you have that with the IRA. And it can also give you the Roth IRA can give you completely tax-free withdrawals on your principal. And another thing I want to mention is the low fees. So if it's self-directed, like I mentioned, you can pick the stocks or the funds that are no fees at all. So all this comes into, did you do your due diligence? Are you picking the right profile? You have to put in some thought into setting up your IRA. And this applies to everything, including the IUL as well, and the 401k. So these two that I just mentioned, the 401k and the IRA, they have some, they're great tools, but they both share some blind spots. And I have put out 4 of these here. One of them is that they have strict contribution caps. So what does that mean? It means that there's an amount of money that you're not allowed to go past in investing into them. So for high earners, if you're making a lot of money and you want to save a bigger portion of your paycheck, this might limit you to how much you can put. Last time I checked, it's $7,000 for a single person until you're 50 years old. Once you're 50 years old, because the government, whoever controls this, sees that you don't have much time left to save, if the average life expectancy is 80 years old, so they give you an additional boost of $10,000 per year. But before you turn 50, the maximum is $7,000, no matter what, no matter how much you make. You can obviously invest less, but they have that cap. And secondly is it's locked at age 59 and a half. Like I said, you cannot take out your money until then. And there's market downturn exposure. So whenever they put this money in these funds, it's not guaranteed that it's going to make money. And in fact, if the stock market doesn't do good, there's an economic downturn, your funds will be affected, and so will your returns on your investment. So if you put the money in or you start investing at the wrong time and next year there's a market crash, too bad. Um, and then also you're taxed at withdrawal, like a traditional in individual retirement account. What this means is that most people, you don't really think about this, right? When people tell you to invest in a traditional IRA, you're not considering that when you're still young, which is when people start considering this, or at least you should be getting advice about investing, to think that if you're single and you're in a student job that pays you minimum wage, you're not going to be like that for the rest of your life, you know? Later on in your retirement, you might be making the most you'll ever make, right? This is at the peak of your, at the end, basically, at the tail end, at the sunset of your career, you've been making a lot of money. You've reached manager position or head engineer. And so your tax bracket is a lot higher because of how much you're making. So if you're withdrawing your IRA, your traditional IRA, you'll be taxed at that tax bracket. Okay. So you got to think about that one, about future tax rates. And also tax rates always climb, right? So the tax rate that it was, I don't know, 50 years ago is not the tax rate that we have today. It goes up and down, but the trend seems to be upward. So yeah, so future tax rates are out of your control. It's best to control what you can today. You know, if I know how much I can afford in terms of taxes today, why not tax first and then save money that is already tax free? When it comes to IRA, I should say. With yeah, let's talk about that IUL. So in indexed universal life insurance, it's a multi-tool. So it's part retirement account, part insurance, part tax strategy. So in essence, you're replacing your 401k or your IRA, and you're adding a bucket they can't replicate, which is your life insurance policy. So four things that I want to point out here is things that the 401k doesn't have, which is actually both of them have delayed taxes, and they're taxed at ordinary income from retirement. The IUL has no taxes. You're putting in after-tax money and you're taking it tax-free. The second thing is that with IRA and 401k, there's a cap at when you can start investing into these things and when you can take out your money. With indexed universal life insurance, there's no age limit. So like I said, you know, depending on your policy that you have, within the first 2 years, you can start taking out your cash value. You can start borrowing against your policy to get some loans. When you cannot really do that with 401k or the IRA. And the last thing is that there's no caps at how much you can put in there. Not the last thing, second to last thing. There's no cap as to how much you can contribute into this. I mean, the cap is really high. There's what's called the MEC limits that apply, where if you put in up to a certain amount, they consider it like the estate is too big. So there's different things that apply, but the limits outweigh the IRA and the 401k by a mile, you know? So you can put in, I'll get the numbers for you in a second, but you can put in a lot more than what you're allowed to. IRA, for example, which is 7,000 if you're single and under 50, or 23,000 in the 401k. Another pillar is market growth and downside floor. What happens in a IUL is that it's once you give them your premium, some of it goes to cover your insurance policy, death benefits, and another portion of it goes into savings. And those savings are not directly invested into the stock market, you know, by buying stocks or funds, because who's gonna, you know, own those stocks, right? Instead, what they do is very clever, is that they look at the best performing indexes, and then they tell you that we're going to put your money in this best performing index, give you an option of maybe 4 or 5. You get to choose depending on how aggressive or the style, like your risk tolerance. And then they credit you based on the performance of that index. So if that index goes up, they by 10%, then they increase your policy value by 10%. If it goes up by 20%, they increase it by 20%, so on and so forth. And then the awesome part about crediting is that since they're not invested into the stocks and the market itself, once the money goes down, they just don't credit you. You know, they keep it at zero. They don't take away from what you already have. They just say, okay, the market went really bad this year. You don't get anything. So you get all the upside and none of the downside. No, okay, I'll take that back. You don't get all the upside because they cap you at how much you can get in return. You know, so if the market goes up by ridiculous like 50%, they're not going to credit your account by 50%. They're going to have a cap. Let's say the cap is 20%. So the most you can ever make from an up climb in the market is 20%. But you never get the low. So if the market goes down by 100%, okay, that might never happen. But if it goes down by a lot, maybe like 60%, then you don't lose any of your money, any of your principal, or any of the money that you've accrued up to that point. So they're taking on the risk of market downturns and they're sharing part of the benefits. And you got to look into those ones to see what the cap is. But for some people, that's good enough. You know, I don't want to be greedy and try to go for the really high returns, but then I forget that there's a risk. If tomorrow there's a downturn, I'm going to be crying, especially if I'm later on in my years and I don't have time to wait for it to climb back up. Because they say, okay, the US stock market is always going to recover if you zoom out. But sometimes I don't have time to zoom out. You know, I'm retiring in, 5 years. So some people don't really want to take that the risk. They want steady, predictable return and no down risk. Yeah. And so, so I already kind of went into some of the unique advantages of IUL. So it's not just about the returns, right? It's about removing the IRS from your retirement paycheck completely, no taxes at all. Secondly, it's about protecting you from market losses. Like I just said, there's no downturn. There's no negative loss. You always keep your principal. Every year it resets. So say, for example, you start out this year, market goes up in the funds that you invested in, and you get a 10% return. When it resets again next year, that money plus the return becomes your principal. So then they start over again. How does the market perform this year? If it performs negative, you keep last year's principal plus the return that you made. And the other thing is that there's no required distributions. So one thing to mention, for the IRA and the 401k, at age 73, you're forced to start spending your money, even though you don't need it. So basically, the government needs to make some of that taxes back. So you're forced. That's what distributions are. The IUL doesn't have that. So your money can stay in there, keep growing and growing and growing, pass it down to your kids. If they're rich already, making good money, they don't need to touch it. They can keep it there, keep it growing. That's why it's the perfect vehicle for keeping a legacy. You know, you're never going to be forced to sell, and it's always continuously growing, and you can pass it down. And eventually, maybe down sixth generation, you have a broke kid or maybe somebody who really needs help. Then they can cash that out and tax free. And the other thing that I want to say, is that's legacy and living benefits. So you can pass it down to your kin, to your kin's kin for infinity. And the living benefits is when you can start living off of your money. Not just the cash value. The cash value, you can take it out at any point, starting from the second year even. Even with no reason whatsoever. You have your app on your phone, you just download, almost like downloading a file, but it's basically just send it, cash it out to your bank account. And but there's riders, like health riders and different riders that allow you, if you meet the requirements, to start collecting on even your death benefit. Okay. So for example, if you get a chronic illness or you get in an accident and you lose your arm or you become blind and it stops you from earning money, it allows you to start collecting that while you're still alive, you know? You cannot be sitting on a big stash of money and savings, and yet you're starving because you're waiting until you turn 60 to collect from them, or be forced to pay high taxes if you withdraw early and penalties. So yeah, so you can start collecting on your death benefit while you're still alive. So what are the trade-offs for an IUL? Nothing is ever perfect 100%. There's always give and take, but you compare the trade-offs of one and compare with the other one and see which one makes more sense to you. Some of the trade-offs that I've seen for IUL, and you can speak to different people, is that there's high internal costs. This means like, you know, for example, I mentioned earlier that you start to accrue your cash value maybe depending on your setup, maybe 1 to 2 years, right? It can even be shorter, but the point is it takes time to accrue that cash value compared to how much you're putting in, right? If you put in, if you're paying $100 of premiums, at the end of the year, you'd expect it to have $1,200 in your account. You're not going to have a cash value of $12,000 the first year, right? Some of that, like I said, has gone to covering your insurance policy. So it takes time to build up. But you'll do an illustration if you're interested, and you see when it actually passes, like however much money you have in your cash value has surpassed whatever you had put in initially as your premiums. So those are the high internal costs that you can think about. So it's not something that you want to put money and then tomorrow you get an emergency and you want to withdraw it. You know, it's not something like that. You can do that with the IRA. If I buy stocks today and tomorrow it's done really good, like Bitcoin, I buy when it's really low and boom, tomorrow it's gone up. I can cash it out right away, and it's but you know, okay, I don't make on the profits, but I can cash out the principal that I put in. Um, and pretty much the next day, right? And there's no penalties for that. Whereas with IUL, there's you gotta be careful about that one. It's more of a long-term investment vehicle. And remember, it's a life insurance policy. So I wouldn't say look at it as an investment vehicle primarily. It's primarily a life insurance policy to cover your life in case something were to happen to you. And then the bonus of that is that it has an investment component that helps your money grow tax-free on top of just your death benefit. And the other downside that I mentioned is the capped upside compared to what? The IRA. Okay. And I guess the 401k too. But the 401k, sometimes they give you fixed funds. So it might not give you maximum potential either. So you would go like the IRA has the highest upside, followed by 401k and then the IUL, because your cap in the IUL is set by the insurer. It's not set by the market. Whereas with the other two, you have maximum upside. So the capped here, the one that I found was 8 to 12%, but it could be higher actually, depending on who the insurer is and what risk level that your profile is set at. And then again, it needs an expert to design. I've been saying it depends, it depends, it depends. This is because if you set it up wrong or not to match your particular investment style or risk level or how much you're making, how much you want to have in your retirement, like all these things, then you might be setting yourself up for failure, right? It's best to sit down with a financial expert that can ask you the right questions, that can guide you the proper way so that you set up your thing, really well, solid, so you don't default on your premiums, so you don't, you also have somebody close to you so you can ask them questions like, what do I do if this happens? When can I withdraw this? How much should I take out? if I take out a loan, all these things, you gotta have an expert to walk you through it. And the good thing is that we have one, the person who invited you here is an expert, can definitely guide you. Um, uh, yeah, and they can walk with you all along the way. You can always talk to them, ask them, and they'll be happy to guide you because they've been doing it for a long time. One last thing I want to mention is that it's yeah, yeah. So what is it? What's this one best for, right? Um, I'd say it's important if you have a 401k to max out your contribution, right? And I mentioned this earlier when I showed you the slide that it would be financially irresponsible not to take advantage of that because it's 100% return. Like as soon as you put it in there, they match you 100%, if that's the setup at your employer. So, but then it's capped at 23,000 if you're a single person in America. So my financial advice would be to look at that. If you can contribute that and you have an employer that matches it, well and perfect. And then if you're a high earner, but you can have you can have a combination of this. Like I told you, I have all of them. So um, so it's not bad. You just have to manage where you put your money and understand how it grows, understand the tax implications, understand when you can take it in and out. So that's why I'm doing this presentation so you can make an educated investment, right? Um, so if you're a high earner and you want to contribute more to your retirement, why would you invest in a product that it caps you on how much you can put in there, right? You want one that can take advantage of your high earning years. In your youth, when you're making a lot of money or high in your career, you can put in as much as you can so you can have more in your savings. And then those who value liquidity and protection, right? None of these other policies have easy liquidity and protection like an IUL does, right? Actually, none of them have a protection at all. And then on top of that, IUL has that liquidity component where you can start taking out your money, as soon as your cash value starts to accrue. So if you're already hitting your 401k match, I would suggest to also put the rest of the money in 401k. That's a secure investment. Like I would say 80% of your investment portion should go into of what's left from the 401k contribution should go to your IUL. And then 20% is those the risk that you really like, you don't care if you lose it pretty much. To invest in those kind of assets that aren't offered under your IUL. Things like cryptocurrency, which is a very risky asset, but has huge potential. So why not take a little bit, 20% of your savings, your portion of money you've put aside to save, and put it in there. Who knows? See what happens, and put it in a Roth IRA, Roth IRA, or even a different vehicle, like directly into straight, like using Robinhood or M1 Finance also has some of those. But I don't want to talk about those ones. Today we're talking about IRA and IUL and 401k. But yeah, so I'd say 80% put in an IUL. It's safe. It protects you from downside risk, and it protects you from health, like physical. Something might happen to you. You might get ill. You might die. What's going to happen to your family? What's going to happen to your assets? Things like that. If you have a house and you die or you lose your ability to make money, your IRA and your 401k are not going to save you. Because you start contributing in them and you cannot live off of them until you're 60. You pretty much have to wait. So yeah, this is my last slide. I just wanted to close by saying that the 401k and IRAs, they give you market exposure and a bit of tax advantage, but all your money lives in one tax lane and under one age restriction. So the IUL is about building a third lane, tax-free, penalty-free, even before you're retired, and cash protected, so there's no downside risk, and you're protected from your life is protected. So it's not just about beating the market; it's about beating uncertainty. Uncertainty is one thing that we cannot control. Nobody can. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Only God knows. So the best thing, the wisest thing, is to just try to put boundaries around the uncertainty that you're willing to take on. And this is one vehicle that is relatively new. I think that's the reason why a lot of people, that's why we do these lessons and teach people about it. It's new. That's why there's traditional and then there's the Roth. Some of these products have been there a long time ago, like the traditional one has always been there. But as time moves on and people understand life expectancy, people understand investment, people understand risk, insurances come in, they can start offering products that are better. They improve them. So you started with the traditional IRA that had all these problems. Then you moved to the Roth that has that's medium or whatever, at least flexibility wise. And then you got IUL that has everything that is good that both the IRA and the 401 can have, plus more. So yeah, if you have any questions, I'm open for questions. And thank you so much for your attention, paying attention to this. I hope it was helpful, and I'm glad that I could share. And I'm very lucky to have been invited to this. Thank you so much, Immaculate. Over to you.
Thank you so very much, Collins, for this wonderful presentation. It's always good, actually, to listen from diverse, group of people. When it comes to young people, I love your passion. I love the passion of young people. The way they look at actually this, building the wealth is different because they are not as risk averse as the older people are. So they put everything that they can to make sure that they build what they can. So you touched so many areas of retirement, really, that everybody needs to learn about. You're talking about the difference between those tax deferred and tax-free. So we always hear about the concept of the seed versus the harvest, So people wonder, would you really want to pay the tax on the seed or the tax on the harvest? Because like you explained beautifully, when we're saving those monies into the 401k, those are the seeds we're putting down. I would rather pay my tax on the seed than paying my taxes on the harvest, because the seed might be just little, but the harvest is going to be big. That is when I need it. When we are young, like your age, you can contribute or you can pay as much tax as you can. But when it comes to someone who is 60 plus, they don't want to lose any penny. We want to save as much as we can. And I loved the way you compared different vehicles because we don't want to show people that there is only one. We always like to diversify our options. We don't want to put all our eggs in the same basket. Like you said, if your employer is matching, what you're contributing, why not take the advantage? But what if you leave the job and you have that contribution sitting in the company ABC? Can you move that money to a qualifying account and be able to make more money, that where your money is safer on those taxes and then safer on market downturn, and actually diversify your more options? So this was very, very good. So what I had actually talked about, maybe when you talk about the IUL that we really love, the takeaways I had was jotting down really, mostly on the taxes that we're talking about. IUL offers tax-free growth, tax-free income, and tax-free death benefit, and then tax-free living benefits. So you seek today, you're free to access your money tax-free. You die, someone dies tomorrow, unfortunately, the benefits to their beneficiaries are 100% tax-free. And then when you're older, nobody's touching on your harvest because you paid your tax on your seed. That was beautifully put, Collins. Thank you so much for that. And for our audience, we always want to hear from you. This is the purpose. The purpose is to learn together. This was never meant to be a classroom just to educate, just to preach, but we want to learn together, hear from you, and then open our minds, actually. And most of the time, if you have something, financial literacy topic you want us to discuss, every Thursday this time, we are here discussing and touching different topics. So the floor is open for any contributions, any questions, anything you want to add. The floor is open for everyone. Thank you all.
Yeah, that's a powerful takeaway that, there's no reason when it comes to taxes that you should give the IRS your entire farm when you can just give them a few seeds today and never have to talk to them again. Got some comments in here.
Hi, Collins.
Hello.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Introduce your name and yeah, let us hear the comments.
Okay. Yeah. So my name is Evan. Collins and Sharon are my friends, and I'm so happy to see how Collins is already becoming a professional in the finance field. Yeah, I'm inspired. Yeah. So I was just wondering, is there an age limit that someone can be accepted into the one of these programs you have shared? Is there age limit? Like beyond this age, you cannot be accepted.
So I can take that one,
Okay.
unless someone else wants to speak on now.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You shared a lot, Collins. I can help you out here. Thank you so much, Evans, on that. So the age limit. So Collins touched different kinds of vehicles, retirement vehicles. Obviously, if you're working, you're still working. There is no age limit for you to contribute towards 401k. And as he talked about earlier, the individual retirement accounts, you setting that up for yourself. If you're self-employed and you don't work for any company, and when it comes to index universal life, there is no age limit. Anytime you want to come in, but you always encourage our people, the younger you are, the better it is going to be there for you, because these life insurance products are very good, but for everyone, but they're cheaper with age. So we always encourage people, what is younger? So you are as good as you are today. If you're 50 today, that is your young age you're going to ever be. If you're 40, if you're 30, this is the best time for you to do that, because unless you have, we always tell people, never wait for tomorrow, because you never know what tomorrow you bring. Although these products are free to everyone, but some people are not able to actually get them because they end up losing insurability just in case they get sick. So you find some young people who tell you, I'm still young, I have enough time, I don't have children, I don't have a home. There is no need now. I will do it when I have a home, when I have children. But you never know what those 2, 3, 4 years will bring to your life. So when when we're setting up these accounts for you, there is what they call underwriting. Underwriting looks into different things, your health being one of them, your age being one of it as well. So the earlier you do, the better. But at the same time, any time is welcome. Any age is welcome. There's no age limit. Thank you, Evan.
If I may add something to Evans' questions. Thank you so much, Evans. I'm very happy to hear you again, and I'm glad that you could join us. So when you ask age limit, the way I understand it too is that there's the lower side and there's the higher side, right? So in investing, a general rule is that the longer your money is in the market, the highest are your returns. There's no amount of money that would beat compound interest. So the earlier that you can put it in, the better the compounding. Because every year, whatever they add on top of that is a percentage of what is in there at that moment in time. So you want to put in early. In fact, front load it, you know, when you're younger. And so we break it down into the three that we talked about. When it comes to IRA and IRAs in general and 401k, you cannot invest before you're 18 years old. In fact, you cannot have a job before you're 18 years old. Yeah, the job that you get is maybe like your corner store and they pay you cash or whatever, but it's not like a legit job. Maybe 16 in some areas, some states. With the IUL, you can buy a policy, an IUL policy for someone else. It happens all the time. All the parents that find out about IUL when it's too late, maybe they're in their 70s or something, they'll buy IULs for their grandchildren, you know? So you can buy a policy for somebody who's 6 months old. Imagine how much premiums they're paying. People do it as gifts. Parents will do it, buy a policy for their kid at 6 months old. They'll pay for them their premiums until they're 18, and then they'll give them as a birthday gift at 18 years old. And now you inherit a policy that has a fixed premium. So the premium that you're paying when you were 6 months old is the one that you're going to pay for the rest of your life. If you don't lapse your policy. Lapsing your policy means you stop paying your premiums for an extended period of time, or there's different rules about that one, but you want to keep your policy in compliance, and you can pay the same premium as you paid when you first set up the policy. Yeah, so there's the lowest age limit for a policy, if I'm not wrong, and I can be corrected if I am, is 6 months old, up to any age. But like Auntie Immaculate just said, if you're older, your premiums are going to be higher based on your age. The biggest thing is about your age, because they're predicting how long you're going to be alive. This is an insurance policy, remember. So initially, it's about insurance. Are you insurable? Based on your health, based on your age, based on your gender, what's the risk of insuring you? And then after that, once you get it, now it's about your investment, and depending on how much premiums you put in there, that's how quick your investment will grow. So yeah, that's my. And then with IRA and the other one, you can invest until you're 59, right? 59 and a half, because after that, there's no point, because that's when you can collect your money. Any other questions? We'd love to hear from you, even if you just have comments, takeaways. You can open your mic and share. Yes, go ahead, Roy.
Yes, Mr. Collins, thank you so much for the wealth of information that you have shared with us. I do like the way that you went in depth into breaking down the various products that we have, the IUL, the IRA, and also getting into the 401k. That was good. You also did a good job on looking at the limits that are available for investment, which is 401k 7,000 as of 2025 that can be put away, which leaves the IUL open to take on much more, while avoiding having it as a modified endowment contract, which means that it has been overfunded, and that in that situation it has to be governed by the IRS rules. But the insurance companies do help us to see that we don't overfund those IULs in order for them to maintain what they have as insurance policies, as opposed to them being classified as investment contracts. So, well, there is a little bit of IRS as well as employer situations. IRS can generally, it does recommend that employees have to participate in 401ks when they're at least 21 years. But what happens with many of the employers, they do allow younger employees to participate in the 401k plans. Sometimes they do offer them immediate contributions. And this here is on our different employers and also different insurance companies. They do have various limitations that they offer, and obviously the US is a big company, a big country, sorry. So different states have different laws that do govern these. So many of these are the 401k. We can find that some of the 401k plans are managed by state laws. So there may be some differences between the ages and also some of the rules and regulations. But overall, good job, Mr. Collins, and we appreciate the in-depth that you've given us. Thank you much.
You're welcome. Very welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, I'm very happy, honored, lucky to have been invited to give this presentation. It's not often that I get to talk about these things that I'm passionate about. I usually just talk to my friends, in Hangouts, and they're like, "Bro, we're supposed to be having fun. Why are you bringing in financial matters? We don't talk about money in public." But yeah, it's great to be able to share this, and it's very useful information because we're all gonna get old, and we're gonna stop working. We're not gonna have a lot of energy. And we would want to be in a place where we're comfortable and we're able to sustain our lifestyle without struggling or turning to people for arms and begging them to help you out, and just going out with whimpering and being a burden on others. So it's wise to live within your means, save a lot, save a lot, save a lot. If you don't get to use it, then your future self will use it. Who's your future self? Your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids. Those are part of you, Whatever you leave for them, basically determines what, how well they get to live their life. So please think about this, take it seriously, and reach out if you have any questions. I'll put my email here, my phone number. You can reach out to whoever invited you as well and just ask questions, do an illustration, talk about these things, and share it with anybody that you care about and needs to see this as well. Again, thanks again, Immaculate Usinje, for inviting me, and thanks for everybody that was able to see this. And people that are going to watch this online at a later date, may you pick out what speaks to you and throw out the rest. I'll be happy with that. All right. Thank you very much.